Hello, it's Kim Malinowski. It is November 29th, already past Thanksgiving, 2024. Um, some people really care about, like numerology. I don't know my numerology. It's not that I don't care, so I don't want to make it like sound like that. I'm like, oh, she has that tone. But it's 1:45 now PM if it matters. As I am doing this. I'm at a friend's house. Um, can't do this at my either of my houses. And I feel like I look like a hot mess. I usually don't comment on how I look or anything of that nature, but I am not feeling well. And I'm pretty certain it's because of the dust that is in my house still. It's not as bad, I don't think, but I think that because my car was wrecked, and I'm still waiting to hear if it's even what the estimate is, if it's going to be totaled anything. It's been a few weeks in the house, and then I cleaned it. I spent an evening like actually paralyzed. I could not make my hands like come up off the. I was in one position, and in a few hours, I was eventually able to go up the steps, and then I sort of like collapsed onto my purse on my bed, and no water or like using the bathroom until like 1 a.m. And I came into the house at 6 p.m. So I knew I was crashing because I was going to go study, and I still feel bad that I couldn't study, but I couldn't do it. I guess like we have to have understand and forgive ourselves our limitations, but I'm not very good at that. Okay, so I just found this today. It is the Sleepy Hollow Tarot. Excuse me, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow Tarot. I was totally like, I was holding like this oracle because like it's Black Friday. So, like, even like, the metaphysical store is having a sale. And I'm like, I'm holding this oracle, not this one. But I was like, I don't know if this feels right. I don't know if I really want it. But I really need something new for today because I don't feel well. And like, this was like on like display. And I was like, it's meant to be. For those of you that don't know, I've done a lot with the Headless Horseman. I have four travel logs with the Fairy Tale magazine that came out in October. I I have a verse novel that I've been putting around that is being held by the press indefinitely. I don't know. I have to inquire again. But like, we'll see if we can make it fitted. And I'm like, time is ticking, people. And just happened to found it. I mean, like, like how sometimes it's like serendipitous, and you're less like, oh, yeah. So I guess I was meant to be there because the whole time I was there, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to spend my money tomorrow. Going to an apothecary tomorrow. So, I mean, like, I know it'll be great tomorrow, but I was not supposed to like spend it. And this is the guidebook, but I just want you to like see the artwork. It's fun. This is based on the Rider Waite. So you'll see like a lot of the same imagery. Now, I usually use two or three decks. So instead, I'm using one deck and I drew a lot of cards. Okay. And I don't have them, usually I also already have them in the book. I don't. I have them spread out. I'm just gonna like randomly like be like, yeah, And like, so our second to last card that I pulled is the Fool. And if I get the Fool upright anytime, I actually think that no matter where it is, this is my personal belief, that it's really representing us. And this is, of course, Ichabod. He's going on Fool's Quest. He's going into town to start a new life, and it doesn't go the way he thinks it's going to go, if you followed the story. Um, but right now, we don't know that. Sort of like us, every time we go on a new quest, we don't know what that outcome is going to be. I have a few new quests. Planning on going to grad school. I'm trying to get in now. So, like, but there's that gumption. You're going in, you're gonna do it. But do you actually get in? Right? So do you have success if we're gonna build this out? Do you, what goes on in the journey and the adventure? And are there things that we bring to the table that A, we shouldn't, or B, that we really need to, but we lack all sorts of stuff. Like you can just sort of question it. But this is us taking a leap into the unknown. Okay. So, I mean, like that really is for a December reading. Okay. So it's not quite December, but all right. For a end of the year reading, I think that that is what we're doing is that we're taking that leap, that like gumption, And I think that we have to have that gumption. Go out with innocence. That's another thing. You're innocent when you are just excited about something. You don't know what's going to happen. You're like, yeah, it'll be great. It'll really, and you don't know. And sometimes it is great. And sometimes it is spectacularly awful. You just never know. You never know. It's like this year. Um, if you ask me some parts of the year, I'd say we're horrible. If you ask me others, I'd be like, it's adventure of the lifetime. Changed me so much. I'm a better person. But it's really hard to sometimes distill that. Okay, so our next card is the Queen of Pentacles. Looking up who it is, I'm pretty sure it's looking at the wrong page. That helps. That helps, right? I'm pretty sure it's Katrina, but I want to, yeah, okay. I didn't want it to be her mother because there's also her mother and father in here. So this is Katrina Von Tassel. And she, of course, is, you know, the love interest of Ichabod Crane. All right. And she's known to be very cool, is as she's described. So she is liking all the lads around. And she has this huge wealth that she's going to inherit. So she has her pick of anybody, really. So she holds the power and the pentacles. She decides. So now we got it up. Oh, it says Katrina embroidering a pentagram. Okay. So nurturing, practical, providing financially, a working parent. Now, all of these I don't agree with. And some of them I kind of a little some of these are a little racist. But hey, I am going to go through this. All right. So domesticity. That is what I'm feeling with this. Domesticity. And you can male, female, all genders. I am she, they. Um, all genders. You can have the domesticness. You can be of the home. You don't have to have normal gender roles or the ones that are imposed, but you can be of the home. But I think that she represents not just like this, what was it? Nurturing, practical, providing financially, a working parent. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there has to be, I felt like that had class distinctions. Oh, she's a working parent, blah, 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 blah. Okay. It's not necessarily it. But she can be an involved parent, right? Because, as long as the child, the spouse, the pets survive, we can get through about anything. And this year, domestic is going to be hard. It's going to be a hard with home, I feel. And that doesn't mean it's US abroad everywhere. Everything has a ripple effect. I just feel it like we're creating something new. And see, she has that pentacle that she is embroidering, and it's something new. She's making something, well, arguably, let's say a towel or a sheet or something better, making an improvement, right? Stamping herself onto it. So we can say, in a really big abstraction, she's changing, the world by just small actions that put a stamp on it. And I like my interpretation a lot better than a working parent. And I'm like, all right, both of my parents worked. True story. They still are. They're in their 70s, still working. So I don't want to be like, oh, working parents. But like in like my community, working parents, oh my gosh, that's just like so, like there definitely was a judgment, which is interesting that judgment comes up. All right. So there definitely was a judgment of that working parent sort of whether the working parent was just providing for like a single parent, providing for their children, or if it was more broader, that it was like working class, you know, new money at the greatest. There is a class distinction, and I think that by stamping ourselves on, we sort of change that sort of perspective. I don't work per se, right? I don't have a 9 to 5 steady income. But despite like everything, I still get stuff done. I still volunteer. I still like that there's ways that we can improve others' lives, our own life, and go forth and sort of like make magic in the world, whether we're working or not, if we're disabled or not, or however. Okay. So I never want to be like, oh. So every time I see something that says like working, it either means class distinction or it's like against Kim, who, as a writer, believe me, most people say that I don't work. And believe me, I don't know where the time goes because I'm always working. All right. So judgment. Upright is 20. I always have to look because like my Roman numerals are not the best. I know that it's supposed to be like a Puritan sort of thing. I was trying to go through it earlier. And they're mixing their timelines a little bit. All right. So like the Dutch are not the Puritans, but I'm really trying hard to go with, what they are deciding to represent. Because like Salem is pretty close. If you really have to think about it, it's pretty close to other places. And like the witchcraft trials and other types of trials were not just in Salem. They were elsewhere as well. So I mean, like the artist is not incorrect, not incorrect. So okay, so this is upright. We got it reversed, but I want you to see that they are on what I would call two wands. Okay, and wands, we have a lot of wands over there. So it comes, in. Okay, so like they're sort of like trapped on wands, right? They're sort of like definitely I don't I mean they're being sacrificed on wands, So the idea of, dreams and even like craftiness is sort of like being judged in some ways. Okay. It says two figures, a man and a woman are bound to stake. Now, like I said, I say wands just because I can see over there how like their sticks are represented. All right. So mass fear and intense piety incited prejudicial investigation of alleged practitioners of witchcraft. Whether guilty or innocent, the fate of those accused was hopelessly inescapable. Yes, but really hard to place into the headless horseman story. So it's expanding it a little bit. Just saying. All right. To reverse and saying self-doubt, inner critic, ignoring the call. So how would it be? How would it be a call? All right. So they're saying upright is inner calling. Okay. Hear me out on this. If these are wands and you are tied to them, I would say your inner calling being fulfilled. I don't know if it would be upright or reverse. Because, like, basically, they're saying, you know, if it's reverse, your will and your judgment, it's not being fulfilled. But I really sort of think that that is an escape. You are escaping sort of like this death. I mean, like, if they're tied and they're gonna die, and they're being like, there's like a Puritan in front of them that's condemning them to die. I think that escape and judgment would be more accurate, despite the tarot connotations, but actually, like, if you go with history and story, um, you know, this would represent more of a metaphorical escape, because you might be tied, you might be bound, but you probably would not be burnt. I'm sure that there's some way, if you're reverse, that those wands and imagination and machinations can help free you. Okay, so that might have been a stretch, but I'm saying it. And I think that we can free ourselves of our own judgment, our self judgment, our inner critic. I think it's the opposite. I do. So I think that we can free ourselves, and sort of make a metaphorical escape. And if you don't want to be like that metaphorical, and you're like, okay, we're totally judged and died, metaphorically with this card, well, then it's sort of like, well, then you've gone beyond that, and you are rebirthing yourselves and your dreams, and then you will remake, and go forth. So, like, this Fool card comes back again because, like a reverse judgment, you would think that judgment on Ichabod Crane would be like, oh, it's sort of like the ending. But is it judgment, or is it open ended? Where does he go? I mean, like, we don't really have an end. We have a smashed pumpkin. So that was a stretch. I admit it. All right. Our next card is a Three of Pentacles, which, I know that they're lanterns, but trying to decide if they have like a specialness. See Pentacles. I've never used this deck before, so all right. So the Three of Pentacles has the pumpkin. Okay, it says three tin lanterns, each showing a pentacle. And we did get it upright. So they're saying it's teamwork, collaboration, learning, and implementation. So if you go with freeing somehow yourself of the inner critic and self judgment, and maybe other people's judgment, then this would be the next step, is like sort of selling forth. Teamwork, collaboration, learning, implementation. All right, I'd go with the implementation, right? So if we have freed ourselves, we have that less of self doubt. We still have those wands there that were our dreams that we might have been crucified for. Well, then this would be the metaphysical rebirth, and like going forth and doing it. And like, this is a cycle that happens multiple times. Every group of tens of the minor arcana and all of the major arcana form a cycle. They are meant to be like the seasons of our lives, and then like each cycle of our lives. And I found that it's interesting how accurate it is. Now, it's vague in some ways, but it's still accurate because the cycles keep turning. Usually something resonates. I'm not sure everyone is all like, yes, that's what I want my tarot readers to tell me, is that sometime it'll resonate. All right, I'm gonna put this. This is the Eight of Cups, and this is Katrina, and it says contemplating her suitors. And I would say it's indecision. Um, they're saying disappointment, abandonment, withdrawal, escapism. And if those words like call to you, please take it. And if they resonate with you, sure. But I don't know. I see like yearning and like, yes, yeah, like a pining. But I also see there's all those cups, and it's hard to decide on who or what, I guess I should say, is going to like help you on your journey, what will satisfy you, what will help you escape and get those, your dreams. And so escapism in the word escape as I use it, sure. But escapism as just like frivolity and deciding not to make a decision and not wanting to live in the real world, I'm not sure. Okay. I'm not sure that's how I interpret it, at least not ours, as a collective. Right. Like I said, I have all of these and like usually I like randomly go through the book and I repick the order. All right, so this is the world. It said in the book that this was Ichabod Crane's schoolroom. Okay, so Ichabod, of course, is a headmaster. He teaches students who happen to be all male. Um, Time. All right, and so it talks about him also playing with the schoolboys and like taking an active role. So he's not just disciplined, it makes sure to say. Instead, he's also, opening doors, opening the world to people. And like, so like this is Ichabod's world, but it's also him opening the world to both himself and others. That the artist really wanted it to be like knowledge opening the world to people. And like I can feel that. And like the world sort of like encompasses us. And as I said, with this interconnection, when I was sort of ranting in the beginning, there is definitely each thing, each country, the entire globe is going to feel ripple effects of everything. I mean, we already do, in terms of well, even let's say, one place has a hurricane, other places might not feel those winds, but there's like connectedness. There's different things that happen. Sometimes they don't get certain supplies, all sorts of stuff. We don't realize how interconnected we are. We also don't realize how sheltered we are and how secluded. And sometimes they seem like they're opposites. How can we both, you know, secluded and also interconnected? But it occurs, and every time we learn something new about ourselves or about somebody else, we like open our worlds and we get closer to the other. I mean, like it's like a dance that we sort of do, and it's a dangerous dance because then you start depending on people or they depend on you or things happen even in friendships, like there is like a dance forward, like you learn something new about them, they learn something new about you, and but then they're like they expect this because you did this before, and it's just interesting, and the world is a macrocosm of that microcosm. And like, so like this schoolhouse sort of is like where we're at. We're all learning. We're all waiting for somebody to get up to the front of the class. We're waiting for our turn to get up to the front of the class. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes excitement. And with each new thing that we learn, we expand. That's just us, that's our body. And each thing that we put out into the world, we expand the world and each other. Okay. 10 of Wands. Now, I thought this one was interesting. Okay. You can see that it's winter and those are all nicely stacked. Everything is cut, but this one log is left out. Now, usually it's about burdens. Like the 10 of Wands is pretty much always about burdens of some sort, whether you're finally pushing them off, it's an end of a cycle. Do you drop them? And that sort of thing. Well, this deck has the 10th pentacle left out. So it's not nicely stacked. It's really sort of like, well, then the work isn't done, right? And like, what if we need that? We take the bundle, but we don't take that log. Well, we need it in the winter when, things are scarce. So that's sort of like is a perplexing metaphor. Because, like, what are we leaving behind or out or away from us that we're going to need? Like, what are we discarding? What are we not accounting for? Is there something that we need? Because wands are about dreams, to me at least, and definitely about power. Not in the material sense, like pentacles, and not in like the intellectual sense, like swords, but almost like in the magical, in the dream world, in the like go out and get your gumption on world, right? What are we leaving? What do we need? Now, how are we going to pick up that log? Maybe it's heavier than the others. And those other nine are on the ground. That's the other thing. In the traditional tarot, the person is holding all of them. Okay? So you have all 10. That is complete burden. So I kind of am like, I think they got it wrong. There's one up there that we're going to have to move. Yes. But those other nine are stacked. They're ready. That means they're no longer on our backs. Okay? So it's not like we have 8, wands above us or 9 wands above us. We have one that we have to keep carrying and they'll put away, maybe secretly, um, maybe for the spring. And then the other 9 we'll carry and we'll finish our task. But I don't see it as burdensome as if I was gonna carry 5, wands on each side. So many dreams and so many projects and so much energy that it's unsustainable. I think we're being said that, even if we leave one out, we're still on a steady, sustainable pace. Or we need to keep that. I am a terrible, okay, my pace is frenetic. I run manic and I'm really manic usually. Like not to the point where I am on medication, but medications seem to be changed or things. So I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, you're so manic. But I run manic. It's people like it's trying to keep me down my medications. And I still have energy and wants and ambition and go forth. And if you know me in person, I am sorry. You know that I sally forth and like I'm an introvert, but I get stuff done at the same time. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, you have 2 trash cans that are full. And then I give it 5 minutes. Are you gonna empty them? Are you gonna empty them? And then I just empty them and I run off. And I come back and put the trash bags in. And usually the person is like, you are psycho, but also thankful. Um, so like so we can have like that frenetic energy, or we can just take it as like maybe we need to just sort of slow it down a little bit and be very, very, very like mindful of our time. So instead of, I can bounce. So instead of, spending 10 minutes here, oh my gosh, I have to go here. Oh, yeah, I just wasted that 5 minutes. Okay. So then to be fair, let's be like, okay, so you have 20 minutes to do a project. That's all you need to do. You only need it really 15 minutes for it, but you give yourself 20. You have that extra 5 minutes. You say thank you to yourself and actually breathe during that extra time instead of just going to the next and the next thing and the next thing that builds until you are on fire and in a bad way and hurting yourself accidentally. I mean, like, so then let me get into the correctness. 8 of Pentacles, right? I'll put it up right. 8 of Pentacles. Now, I'm not sure. I'm looking to see what they described it. Oh, okay. Okay. It is. I thought it was like lanterns. but it's a man carving pumpkins. I always am interested in like what each different artist like describes things as. In reverse, they say self-development, perfectionism, misdirected activity. So that is a little bit about what I'm describing about myself and how this card can sort of present itself as, a resolution is like, yes, we are, we're a little frenetic. We're not quite up on our game, getting our own cycles going, you know, having our own production. And that doesn't mean making the most stuff, but like it does mean getting, I think, the most satisfaction out of our production. And, like you can have like 80 cookies and we'll do this as it's like a Yule Christmas thing, right? It's winter. So you can have like 80 cookies, and if the middles are not done, then you just have 80 bad cookies. But if you only make 30, but like they're completely done and perfect, then you have 30 good cookies. Sometimes I have both, and I just like pitch the I pitch the bad, or I pawn them off on people. I'm like, "Does that taste done?" And then I hope they say yes. Either way, I get rid of the cookies. Um, but yeah, so like, sort of like, I don't want to say like it's sort of like streamlining, except streamlining makes it sound so industrious too. And I think that we're supposed to be more intentional than industrious. So I don't quite know what like that word like should be. I'm like struggling with like the proper word for like not being industrial, but also being very, I don't know. I keep saying intentional, and I think intentional is probably where it is. If we get lots and lots and lots of stuff done by being intentional, great. But even if we get one thing done being intentional, that's also great. I think a lot of it is about like understanding the self and either not needing forgiveness or forgiving ourselves, like that sort of sense of like, oh, I have grace, that this is just what I am, this is just what I do. Or if it is that self, critic that comes out, then it's, well, I forgive myself. It's okay. I still have time, that sort of thing. All right. So we have the chariot. And some of these, like I said, I don't quite agree with. All right. So to me, this gentleman looks African American. The artist might disagree with me, but it's supposed to be a farmer plowing, and like the cards with people of color are cards that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't do that. I disagree. I disagree with that sort of symbolism, if that's what you want to call it. I'm sure the artist probably wasn't intending it, but like the chariot, the farmer plowing, like there's definitely were slaves in the North. And anyone who says that there's no slaves in northern, in the North, actually of all Americas, but like North America of the north of North America, like it's not even like, at the time it wasn't the United States. It was, continental, and then it became the United States. And like this occurs right sort of as the revolution has just ended. And so slavery was very, very, very much all over the colonies. Abolition was starting. So my my main issue is that the plowman and the person, of course, the gentleman that is carving pumpkins, like are are of color. And I'm just like, I would have much rather have a different card than like these that were chosen and selected. Um, I might be being, well, a lot of people would be like, you're too snowflakey, but I do see it as problematic. Now, yes, there's farmers of all sorts, but As you'll see later on, when we get to the native peoples that I picked, I kind of disagree as well because we have some of those cards too. And like this might just be a reading of me going, I don't agree with this card. But I don't. So I kind of find it distasteful and a bit racist, unintentionally perhaps, that we have the workers as those of color. Um, so with that said, like I have to tell it as it is. We had the reverse chariot. Okay. I'm gonna see is I forgot what they said. I remember that I hissed. Not at what they said, but I hissed at the image because I was like, I don't like that. All right. So it's a farmer plowing his field. Sleepy Hollow was a valley filled with farmland. At the end of the harvest season, farmers could be seen plowing their fields in preparation for winter. Just remember everything that I just spewed, please. Okay. All right. So we got it reversed. So it's discipline, opposition, lack of direction. So now we've had like 4 or 5 cards that technically we could say go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, whether or not it's industrious or not industrious. Or, you have the one that is like working parent and all this stuff and like, domestic. But I think what we're really being called to, I'm upright. I'm pretty upright. Mm. Okay. So I really think we're being called to have it be upright. Like that's our journey is to go forth, to keep going, to get ready, to harvest our fields, get ready for the next cycle. We just began with the Fool. So this might be a midway point where we are getting ready, to plow the field. Or are if you don't want to go with like the winter spring sort of thing, it would definitely feel like a project was nearing completion. And then it would just be, about having that self-determination and not flitting about, but also not just like hating yourself, which can be even less productive, right? The more that we like procrastinate is usually how much more we like are berating ourselves. Well, this is sort of saying get out of that sort of position and go forth, do the work that you know that you need to do. And that as the Fool that you go off to do that you're doing. All right. This is one of the cards. The Magician. Okay. One. I'm trying to decide. Okay, it says excuse me. Now I agree with the quote, okay? But I'm kind of again, it's a little bit concerning. Um, According to the legend, he held his powers there before the country was discovered by Master Hendrik Hudson. Certain it is, the place still continues under the sway of some witching power that holds a spell over the minds of the good people, causing them to walk in a continual reverie. They are given to all kinds of marvelous beliefs, are subject to trances and visions, and frequently see strange sights and hear music and voices in the air. Irving, 1822. And this is an elder Native American chief casting an enchantment. All right, now I'm going to say the problematic thing is that again, person of color, right? And not that they're the magician, but the fact that it's an American Indian that's in like Sleepy Hollow, and they're the one that's being you know, magical practitioner. Okay, that's very much Anglo-European presentation and projection onto the gentleman here, the chief. Now, The chief has his own beliefs, his own belief system, his own sense of government, and definitely own sense of self. So we can't like just be like, oh, it, practices are practices. Everyone's cultural beliefs are their cultural beliefs. And they aren't necessarily like my cultural beliefs, putting myself onto, you know, this chief's cultural beliefs, it wouldn't be the same. I would be projecting myself onto him, even if I thought that I was interpreting correctly. Learning a lot more about that as time goes on. So, um, old Kim, high school Kim would have been like, I totally identify. Myself, Kim, right now, I know a lot of Native peoples, American Indians, Native Americans, depends on who you ask, which individual wants to be called. And so that I know that it's not like you can't be like pointing to them and be like, you're the magician, like this is what you represent. It's problematic. Um, do I know who should have been here? No, obviously not. I'm not the artist, but I just want to bring that up because I'm the one doing the tarot reading, and I can. But now, after that, again, rant, the magician. We're sort of being called to perform, and maybe not miracles, but definitely some type of art, right? Whatever type of industry that we're in, whatever you want to call it. I mean, even if you're a chemist, in a lot of ways, it's an art form. There's a lot of ways that you think differently, and you have to sort of imagine, even like chemical compounds, right? How do you figure out blah, 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 blah? To me, that's imagination. Now, if you tell me that writing is creative, I'll tell you about that other people. But if you say I'm creative, I will tell you no. I just write because I mean, that's what I do. A lot of mathematicians and a lot, they'll just, that's what I do. And they probably would be offended if I said that they're an art. I don't know. That'd be me putting myself onto them. But like, right? Like we each have our art form and our things that we have the most ability to with. I don't want to be like, we have like special abilities or like we're better than somebody else at something. It's not really quite that. It's like something that only we can do or we can only bring to the table. Okay. So there's something only we bring to the world, to our friendships, to our industry, to our everything. Okay. To our families. So there's sort of like this line that we're going through as we go through these cards of like being asked to bring ourselves forward. We have to get past our self doubt, act like we're still the fool, even though we've gone through turmoil, anything, had those burdens. We had to chop all that wood, right? But we still are going forward like a child, like like we are a little, have those little rose colored glasses and we're ready for the world and we're able to do anything. We're ready to like make magic happen. So manifestation, resourcefulness, power, inspired action. All right. All right. This is the Eight of Wands. You can see that it's in this sort of like haunted trees. I know this is a spectral figure. I'm trying to remember if this is the white woman. Um, they're not white woman as in like Asian, but like as in the legend. One of these it was. And since I brought it up, whether it is or not, I can say the legend. So she sort of is like seen like in woods or on the bluffs is also another place. Near Sleepy Hollow, not quite Sleepy Hollow, but near there. And she's like a spectral figure. A lot of people will be like, oh, I hear her like, screaming on the wind. There's there might be a few folklore tales. One of them is definitely that she's waiting for a husband that never comes. He was like a soldier, I believe, in the Revolutionary War, and he just never came. Presumably because he drowned or died or left her for somebody else. It's unclear in the folklore, and there's several different stories, so that always makes it a little bit all right. All right, no, this is just it's not her, but if you resonated with my story, spooks and phantoms watching from the dark woods. Okay, those up's right. Challenge, competition, protection, perseverance. Okay, so that goes along. So there is a challenge, and we're persevering. Take it. So the other thing, the wands kind of upset me, right? Because like we have, I think this is they're calling it the war party. It's the Six of Wands. Let me just, yeah. Okay. So this is a successful war party. You already heard my diatribe, but just because, like, okay, with the wands, that's the and the magician are the only places that Iroquois really are the Algonquian. And I'm just like, could you just like have them in another suit other than wands? But see, wands are magical and that kind of like problematic. Success, public recognition, progress, and self-confidence. And none of these things are negative, for to have. But it does unsettle me that all the wands are that way. And I'm like, yeah. So you have I don't think that they say in this one. Um, in one of them, they were confirming that it was the Algonquian tribe, which I'm not going to get that far into. I really need to stop talking and just do the tarot reading. But there's a lot of history, good, bad, but yeah. So successful war party, obviously, a good thing, upright, like basically going from this card to this card is like going through the cycle because it's 6 to 7. I do that right, and then 6 to 7. If not, it's still the cycle according to the no backwards, but it's still the cycle just because it's like self discipline then success. If that makes sense. All right, we're down to pumpkin imagery, so then I can shut up, right? All right, so we have the inverted Three of Swords and a pumpkin. Is it inverted? Yeah, it was inverted, but it looks interesting, doesn't it? Which way the swords are supposed to go. I assume that's not supposed to be like a thing where it's like, oh, clearly it could go both ways, but I sort of am sort of like, maybe it could. Maybe you could get either reading from it. I don't know. Yeah, it just says a pumpkin run through by three sabers. And upright, which seems weird to me, is not what we got. That, just in case, because I talked about it both ways, is heartbreak, emotional pain, sorrow, grief, hurt. Reverse is negative self-talk, releasing pain, optimism, and forgiveness. And this is how we did it. Reverse. So optimism and all those limiting beliefs and that negative self-doubt is gone. So we've like talked ourselves out of the negative talks, moved forward, gone through, and we're completing our cycle. It's the Ace of Swords, the last card. I really wanted us to get the Hellas Horseman myself. That's death. The horseman holding an impaled jack-o'-lantern. Upright, breakthroughs, new ideas, mental clarity, success. That's a great way to end the cycle. You begin on the Fool and you end on success. way to go. Okay. Thank you for bearing with my random tangents, and I'm not sure they're random, but my tangents and my blatant yelling at the imagery. All right. Be well. Take care. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next time.